Good morning. So maybe you have noticed this as well, but I feel that these days conversations can be quite intense. Have you noticed that? The tension that's oftentimes in the room and between people, no matter who they are. Sometimes we can notice that when we're online, or maybe when you're at work, certainly also sometimes at the dinner table. And it just seems as if people are on edge. Arguments ignite quickly, fueled by deep-seated frustrations. Maybe you've seen it happen on social media. Someone makes a comment, and before you even think about it, a minor disagreement turns into an all-out battle, with many, many bad words being spewed in each direction. Or maybe you've experienced it firsthand, when an offhand remark from a friend really threw you off and ruined your day. Words have power. Words have a lot of power. They can build up or they can tear down. They can heal or they can wound us. They can bring peace and they can also start conflict. And once spoken, they are almost impossible to take back, those words. A careless comment can do lasting damage. But if you think about it, even a single word of encouragement can lift someone's spirit up for days and days to come. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen this commercial or remember it. It's from a bank that issues reward credit cards, and it features Samuel L. Jackson, who asks, "What's in your wallet?" You know it? Well, if you don't worry about it too much. It was just my introduction to what is really important, the important question that comes out of our reading, because it's a different question. It's not what's in your wallet, but it's much more what's in your heart. Because what fills our heart inevitably spills out through our words and our actions. Sirach in our first reading gives us a striking image. Just as a sieve separates the unwanted husks from the good grain, so too does speech reveal what is hidden in our hearts. That's a great image, something to take home. If we are filled with bitterness and resentment, well, guess what? It will show. If we're filled with compassion and love, that too will show. Jesus continues this theme in the gospel when he asks, "Can a blind person guide a blind person?" Now, that question seems a bit humorous, right? We can all see this in front of our eyes, two people stumbling along the road, neither able to see where they're going. But Jesus is making a serious point here. He's saying, before we criticize others, we have to take a hard look at ourselves. And then he gives us another powerful image to bring his point home. He says, we notice a tiny splinter in the eyes of our brothers and sisters very easily, while we totally overlook the very large wooden beam that might be sitting right there in our own eyes. And that's exactly where we have to start. Not with finger pointing, but with self-reflection. Now I want to think that maybe kids can relate to this. You know, when you're in school, think about it. Have you ever been told by a teacher, "Come on, worry about yourself"? Yes, okay, I don't know who it was, but I heard a clear yes from this side. Because sometimes, maybe we remember that as adults also. We don't do that as adults, of course, but as children, we might still have done that. We were very busy pointing out what someone else was doing wrong, right? Yeah, I do that still, so I'm still a little childlike maybe. Or maybe at home when your sibling leaves their dishes in the sink, have you ever noticed that your parents will not say anything to them? But if you leave but one cup, they will immediately say, "Hey, that's your cup, put that away." That can be very frustrating. But Jesus is saying, before we complain about others, before we call out someone else's mistake, we should ask ourselves quite honestly, am I really so perfect? Or do I have my own beam to deal with? Now, brothers and sisters, these days they are a stark reminder of how important it is to live out of our faith, out of our relationship with God. It's easy to get caught up in the noise of the world, to let frustration and division dictate how we respond. But as Christians, we are called to something greater. We are called to reflect the presence of Christ, not just in our prayers. If you do those, that's a good start, but in how we speak, and in how we listen, and in how we love. If we're only reacting to the chaos around us, then we're being shaped by the world. But if we respond out of a place of faith, then we're allowing God to shape us, and through us, to shape the world in which He is sending us. And this kind of watching what fills our heart is exactly what is right on time, in case you remember the time in which we are, namely right before the beginning of Lent. Ash Wednesday? Yeah, that's this week. Get ready. Receive your ashes, right? Lent is a time for reflection and a time to ask ourselves honestly, what is growing in my heart? What do I allow to take root in my heart? Are my words and actions bearing good fruit? So what could this look like in practice? Well, it means being intentional with our words, paying attention. It means recognizing that our speech has the power to shape the world around us. So are we using our voices to build up, or are we tearing others down? Are we spreading truth, or are we adding to the division and to the confusion that seems to surround us day in and day out? In those times of uncertainty, in times of fear and of division, we as Christians still have a choice. We have a choice. We can either contribute to the noise, to the anger, to the blame, or we can be voices of reason, voices of kindness, and voices of truth. That doesn't mean staying silent when things are wrong. It means speaking in a way that still reflects the gospel. It means refusing to dehumanize others, even when we disagree with them. And I personally know how tempting that can be. It means calling for justice without letting hatred take root in our hearts. And so here's a challenge for all of us that Jesus is putting before us today. The next time we feel the urge to lash out at somebody, maybe after reading a frustrating headline even, or maybe just having lost in a game, or having a tough conversation, let us pause. We can do that. Take out the power of that conversation by simply taking a break, taking a pause. Let us take a breath and remind ourselves of who we are and, more importantly, whose we are. And before we say anything, let us say a simple prayer. Maybe it's like, Lord, let me speak from your peace. Lord, let me speak from your peace. Now, I have to admit, this is not always easy for me either. You already knew it, right? Yeah. Well, it isn't. There are moments when I catch myself wanting to fire back with a very quick and snarky response, to let my frustration take the lead. Luckily, I have my brothers in Carmel over there. There's 21 of us, so lots of them, who have absolutely no problem calling me out when I fail at this. And while I would love to tell you that I always receive their correction with humility and gratitude, the truth is, it's really annoying, especially when they are right, which of course they very, very rarely are. But seriously though, I know what it means to take that pause and to take the time to say that prayer, Lord, let me speak from your peace. Because whenever I turn to God before reacting, there is something that shifts within me. My heart softens. My perspective changes. Because when we take the moment to reconnect to God, our response changes. Instead of reacting out of frustration, we respond out of faith. And instead of adding to the noise, which seems to be getting louder day in, day out, we become voices of clarity, of wisdom, and of love. And that, I believe, is exactly what our world needs right now and what it probably needs most. St. Paul reminds us in the second reading that through Christ, we already have victory over sin and death. And that's good because it means that we're not left alone in this struggle. God gives us the grace to live differently, to speak words that give life instead of words that destroy. So this Lent, let us try to take Jesus' challenge seriously. Let's be mindful of what we say and what it reveals about our hearts. Let's choose words that heal, words that encourage, words that truly reflect God's goodness. Because in the end, it's not just about what we say, it's about who we are becoming as Christians. So this week, as we receive the ashes on our foreheads, let them be a reminder that God is calling us to something deeper, to let go of whatever it is that poisons our hearts and to fill them instead with God's grace. So maybe the real question this week is really not what's in your wallet, but much more what's in your heart. And that makes all the difference. Amen.